Hello, hello. It is February 25th, 2021. Today's afternoon devotional and Bible study, we will be reading through the book of First Samuel, chapter 28, and Jesus is calling for today. I got Sassy snuggle up to me, and I got Joxer right here um, to help me with the reading. Aren't you going to help me, bud? Yeah, you are. But yeah, so I know you can't see me. Uh, yeah, he likes pets, don't you, bud? All right, but to get things started off today, and by the way, I'm feeling even that much better today than I was yesterday, which is good. Um, so hopefully the healing will continue. But for now, it is February 25th. Today's afternoon devotional and Bible study. Jesus is calling for February 25th. Rest in my peace. Allow me to take charge of this day. Do not bolt into the day like a racehorse suddenly released. Instead, walk with purpose. Walk purposefully with me, letting me direct your course one step at a time. Thank me for each blessing along the way. This brings joy to both you and me. A grateful heart protects you from a negative thinking. Thankfulness enables you to see the abundance I shower upon you daily. Your prayers and petitions are winged into heaven's throne room when they are permeated with thanksgiving. In everything give thanks, for this is my will for you. And that was inspired by three different sections of the Bible. Sorry, I didn't realize I was covering my face there. um, so the first part is come to me, all you who labor, who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. Devote yourselves to prayer, being watchful and thankful. Colossians 4:2. And then lastly, in everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. First Thessalonians 5:18. Um, but yeah, no, that idea of resting in the presence of God, I think, uh, it's a lesson that so often we forget. One second, just felt like the colors were slightly off, like there's a piece of dust on the lens that I didn't notice before I started recording. Um, but yeah, that idea of rest being even a form of worship, I think is a good thing. But acknowledging that Christ is in control and in power of it all, um, I think is so important. Um, so I learned um, a little bit of um, camera things to help you maybe feel engaged, and I might try it out tomorrow. Is to wear glasses, because if I end up looking at myself, it doesn't look like I'm looking at myself, and so often when I go to look at you guys, I get caught in my own eyes, but I don't necessarily make eye contact with you. And when I'm reading, I'm looking at the page and I'm not looking at you. And it's something that Casey Neistat and a few other people did, because they realized that they weren't looking at the lens sometimes, and it helped give the illusion that they were actually kind of connecting. So tomorrow I'm going to try to wear glasses. Let me know if it works any better. But for now, we're going to open up our Bibles to uh, the book of First Samuel, chapter 28. Um, to give a little bit of a backstory, or in summing up what we talked about like this week, uh, Saul spared David's life. David spared Saul's life. Saul ended up going, "Oh yeah, you're right. You haven't done anything wrong, and I'm going to bless you. You're going to be the next king of the Israelites, and you're going to do a good job." Um, then Abigail risks her life to make amends with David. Um, And then her husband dies, and David's like, I liked her so much. She was so brave, so beautiful. I want to marry her. Married her. And then Saul tried to kill David again. And Saul once again had Saul in his hands and was like, I can kill you right now, but I'm not going to because you're God's anointed one. And I'm not going to do that. And Saul once again breaks down and is like, I'm giving you blessing. God is obviously with you. You're going to be a great king. And David's like, I can't live in my homeland because Saul's going to continually try to kill me. So he goes and he lives with the Philistines, with his enemies in at Gath. And the king of Gath welcomes him in and is like giving him a bunch of stuff because he sees everything that David's doing is having success. And he wants David ultimately to serve him. That's his end goal, and why he's allowing David to do a lot of this stuff. And that's kind of where the story ended, and that's where we're going to be continuing from now. So the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 28, Saul consults a medium. About that time, the Philistines mustered their armies for another war with Israel. King Achish told David, You and your men will be expected to join me in battle. Very well, David agreed. Now you'll see for yourself what we can do. Then Achish told David, I will make you my personal bodyguard for life. Meanwhile, Samuel had died, and all Israel had mourned for him. He was buried in Ramah, in his hometown, and Saul had banned from the land of Israel all mediums and all who consulted the spirits of the dead. The Philistines set up their camp at Shimon, and Saul gathered all the army of Israel and camped at Gilboa. When Saul saw the vast Philistine army, he became frantic with fear. He asked the Lord what he should do, but the Lord refused to answer him, either by dream or by sacred lots, or by the prophets. Saul then said to his advisers, Find a woman who is a medium, so I can go and ask her what to do. His advisers replied, There is a medium at Endor. So Saul disguised himself by wearing ordinary clothes instead of his royal garbs. Then he went to the woman's home at night, accompanied by 2 of his men. I have to talk to a man who has died, he said. Will you call up his spirit for me? Are you trying to get me killed? The woman demanded. You know that Saul has outlawed all the mediums and all the consults the spirits of the dead, and all who consult the spirit of the dead. Why are you trying to trap me? But Saul took an oath in the name of the Lord and promised, As surely as the Lord lives, nothing bad will happen to you for doing this. Finally, the woman said, Well, whose spirit do you want me to call up? Call up Samuel, Saul replied. Hey, Jesse, welcome. We're reading through the book of 1 Samuel chapter 28, and we're continuing at verse 12. When the woman saw Samuel, she screamed, You've deceived me! You're Saul! Don't be afraid, the king told her. What do you see? I see a god coming up out of the earth, she said. What does he look like? Saul asked. He is an old man wrapped in a robe, she replied. Saul realized it was Samuel, and he fell to the ground before him. Why have you disturbed me by calling me back? Samuel asked Saul. Because I'm in deep trouble, Saul replied. The Philistines are at war with me, and God has left me, and God has left me and won't reply by prophets or dreams. So I have called for you to tell me what to do. But Samuel replied, Why ask me? Since the Lord has left you and has become your enemy. The Lord has done this just as he said he would. He has torn the kingdom from you and given it to your rival David. Then the Lord has done this to you today because you refused to carry out his fierce anger against the Amalekites. What's more, the Lord will hand you and the army of Israel over to the Philistines tomorrow, and you and your sons will be here with me. The Lord will bring you down, the entire army of Israel, in defeat. Saul fell full length on the ground, paralyzed with fright because Samuel's words. He was also so faint with hunger, for he had eaten nothing all day and night. 1 second. Sorry. When the woman saw how distraught he was, she said, "Sir, I obeyed your command at the risk of my life. Now do what I say, and let me give you a little something to eat, so you can regain your strength for the trip back." But Saul refused to eat anything. Then his advisor joined the woman in urging him to eat, so he finally yielded and got up from the ground and sat on the couch. The woman had been fattening a calf, so she hurried out to kill it. She took some of the flour, kneaded it into a dough, and baked unleavened bread. She brought the meal to Saul and his advisors, and they ate it. Then they went out into the night. May God add a blessing to the reading of his word. All right, so there is a section here that foreshadows something with Christ. So 1 Samuel 28:16. But Samuel replied, "Why ask me, since the Lord has left you and has become your enemy?" Here, the ghost of Samuel acknowledges that God is now Saul's adversary. The sacrifice of Jesus not only rescues us from the penalty of sin, but he also becomes our advocate before God, who pleads our case before the Father. 1 John 2:1. But yeah, this is interesting in a couple different ways, because it shows like how much Saul is willing to go against God when he feels like it's right. So in the 10 Commandments and like the stories of Moses, when he's trying to get the people to leave Egypt, there is pretty stern talk about not going to mediums. I have a friend that went to a medium, and it really did confuse them and messed him up for quite a while, as he's sifting through stuff and he's second guessing everything. And it's like anything that's a blessing becomes a curse with him. And there's a lot of people out there that use the practice of mediums, and they're just really false and misleading, giving a lot of false hope, and really in a lot of ways undermining the spiritual realm, which I definitely do believe the spiritual realm is real. And a lot of times, especially with like the fake ones, it leads to undermining the whole spiritual practices and becomes a joke and a toy. But there was that kid that drowned in the river not that long ago up by Grand Valley, and these mediums, a bunch of them were like, yeah, he's upstream, or like he's in a place that would be physically impossible for him to be because of where he went into the water. They said like he was upstream more instead of downstream, where he ultimately was found months later. But they're looking in a place that's just extending the search, making things so much harder because spirits told them to. And then the ones that are real. Now, this might be controversial, but I don't think that they're hearing from angels. They're probably not even hearing from your loved ones. Because the spiritual realm is real, very active, I would not be shocked if they were more fallen angels that were having conversations, posing as loved ones. But that also gets a little bit challenged in this, right? Because he's talking to Samuel here. So it's interesting, but it's also very confusing, and I don't feel like I have enough knowledge on really dealing with it. But that being said, there can be some real ones, but there's also a whole lot of fake ones. And the Bible actually says, don't even mess around with that stuff. Avoid them. God will tell you what you need to hear when you need to hear it, um, even if it's not what you want to hear. Yeah, Caden. Um, I didn't want to say his last name, just bringing it up, but yeah, his first name makes sense. Um, but yeah, like, and you legitimately had a bunch of people looking in the wrong place. That was impossible for him to be at. And yeah, it makes a big joke and mockery of a lot of the spiritual realm stuff. Um, and that false hope can be so devastating sometimes. But we see Saul getting desperate, and he turns to someone that he knows he shouldn't be turning to. Someone that, when he was following God, said, no, we need to outlaw this from our land. And now he's getting desperate, and he's like, I need to find this person. And she obviously was the real deal. She brought up Samuel, and Samuel was like, yeah, you've continually chosen a path away from me. I know you were justified thinking that you were working for me, but every time I tried to humble you, every time I brought something up that was saying, hey, you're not following me, you're following yourself. Hey, you're following the enemy. Hey, you're following not me, and you're using my name to do so. You're missing the point, Saul. Change. Come back to me. He refused to do it. Or if he did it, it was just so temporary that he continued to press things forward. And this is a leader, not only a leader of like a small group of people, but leader of the Jewish nation. The Israelite nation is being led by Saul and being led improperly. So God is now going, I'm going to intervene. I'm going to hand you over to your enemies. I'm going to hand you over. And that's what's going on here. And he gets desperate, and he digs his hole more and more and more. So the big thing that I get out of this today is, even when times get tough and we struggle to hear from God, don't give up. Stay firm. Stay rooted. So many times throughout human history, especially through like the Jewish history that we've been reading, it's people trying to force the hand of God in their own way. Muslims and their whole bloodline came because of Ishmael, and there's one. Who is the dad? Is like Ishmael or Isaac, right? One was, well, since I can't have a kid with my wife, I'm going to have a kid with her servant, and then that way I'll follow through with what God wanted. And Ishmael was born, and then God was like, no, 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 I'm blessing the marriage that was here. You and Sarah are going to have the kid, and then Isaac was born, and thus the two paths split. There's a lot of times when we try to define what's good, what's right, what's proper, and we miss the point, we miss God, and we make the situation worse. So stand firm, turn to the Bible, follow God. When things are tough, look to the Word. And it's so easy to look. Well-meaning people sometimes can have the most damaging advice that might seem right in the time. David had Saul's life in his hands, and I can kill Saul right now, and everything will be right. And everyone is telling me that this is the right thing to do, so therefore I can do it, right? I can do something that I know is going against God, because God obviously provided this amazing opportunity for me, and the right thing to do was not to kill him, even though earthly wisdom would say, yeah, this is the right thing to do. But Saul reminded God, he prayed to God all the time, and he trusted God's guidance. When things were when there was an easier way to get out of it, he didn't trust the easy way. He leaned on God for guidance, even in those times. And we're in a bit of a rough time now. And in that rough time now, it's easy to give into conspiracy theories. It's easy to just think emotionally about how it's just affecting your life and to forget about the lives of your neighbors and of their family and of the elderly that are in nursing homes that you don't get to see every day. But, the people that work there that serve those elderly people are in our community. They're going to our grocery stores. They're doing this, that, and the other. And it's so easy to get caught up in our own little bubble that we forget about the other people around us. So let's lovingly try to do our best to protect our neighbor. And there's a lot of things that we can do to help our mental health along the way. But that is the struggle right now. It's finding good mental health. And we see huge warning signs in not taking care of our mental health in Saul's story and in Saul's life. He has a really poor view of himself, then he gets overconfident, and then he gets fearful every time someone challenges him. And it's easy to justify these awful actions. Before I started the Bible study, I was watching something about Thanos. And Thanos in the MCU, he justified his actions by something that, some people are like, yeah, maybe he was right. Maybe he was right. But then there's that, and I'll be standing in front of a grateful universe, and that there's, instead of it being like, oh yeah, this is actually for the people, he wants the recognition. He wants that pride. He wants people to worship him. He wants people to do his bidding. And it's easy sometimes to miss our motivations because they might start pure, but then they get corrupted. And we lie to ourselves about that corruption. And that's one of the ways that Saul got to where he was. And his mental health it deteriorated a lot because he got so fixated and lost in these conspiracy theories. And sometimes the best thing to do is just take a step back, take a breath there, fast from the news, fast from social media, fast from media. Take a rest day, rest your brain. Don't jump into all of this stuff. Take a break from politics for a little bit. And rest. Anyways, let me pray and let you guys get on with your Thursdays. I have to go pick up Candace from work. It is a sunny day, but it looks like it's also a little bit cold out today. So hopefully your day is going great. Check out Brainbox. And if you're under 18, you can get it for free. And the Winter Gala tickets are now, I think what has been sold is what's going to be sold. So if you missed out, sorry about that. But yeah, anyways, have a great day. Let me pray. AJC, awesome Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for your guidance. And when things get tough, it's so easy to turn to other methods, to turn to addiction, to turn to the ways that used to satisfy us before we knew you, to turn to pornography, to turn to drugs, to turn to alcohol, to turn to abusive, self-destructive behaviors, to overeating, to oversleeping, to turn to just escaping the world around us, to turn from you and try to fix things ourselves, to turn from the wisdom and knowledge of experts, to not take the medication, to not take this, to not do this. Lord, let us turn to you for guidance and for direction. The world of mediums is one that is just littered with landmines, and it can be so tempting. Because there is a lot of real and there is a lot of fake when it comes to that world. And it's fascinating because it's playing with the unknown. It's playing with our curiosity. And the what if it is real? What if this time it is? And in moments of desperation, we give this false hope that undermines the spiritual realm, which ultimately undermines you and your power in this world, your power in our lives. Lord, you love us and you direct us. And I don't know why you don't talk to us in this audible voice that we hear, that we can hear easily, or in visual messages, but you gave us your Bible. You gave us prayer. You gave us our conscience. You gave us a body of believers that experience you in new ways, that can help guide and direct us, protect us from false teaching and poor counsel. Lord, so many well-meaning people offer such damning, and ultimately hurtful advice at the times when we want to hear it the most. Protect us from bad advice, but let us lean on you for guidance and direction at all times. Being able to give thanks to you at all times for everything that you're doing. Lord, you are awesome. Guide and direct us. Mold us. I thank you for Rachel and for Jesse and for whomever else signed on. I think Liam might have popped on too. And for everyone that's going to be watching this after it's live. And I pray that you can be with us, that you can challenge us, that you can motivate us, that you can help us out in these troubled times when we struggle to hear your voice because we don't have ears to hear in that time. Help us to get out of the well of self-pity and to look towards you. Thank you very much. Amen. All right. Well, thank you very much. Have a fantastic day. Later. God bless.